Hello and welcome to another episode of Laying Down the Lore, a monthly podcast in which we aim to separate our ghouls from our goblins, our snotlings from our Skaven storm fiends, and our bloodthirsters from our bloodletters, and generally ask, what's up with this Warhammer stuff? My name is Ben Crone Barber and I know fuck all about Warhammer. With me is my co-host Christopher Crallin Allen.
Hello.
Who also knows fuck all about Warhammer.
Very true.
And my dear brother... Dramatic pause. And my dear brother Darren.
Hello.
Who knows so much about Warhammer, it's a wonder he has time to do anything else. After gathering online to slay some vermin in the name of Sigmar, this dichotomy between our levels of understanding became clear, and this series is an attempt to address that ignorance. Good morning, fellas.
How you all doing?
Good morning. Good morning. How's it going?
Oh god, it's another musical episode, another Krallen musical.
I can feel it in my bones.
Oh god.
Brace yourselves.
Oh, Sigmar,
Shit.
give me strength. So, speaking of songs, the Skaven Choir have been back in touch.
Oh no.
They've sent us a message. I can't really tell you what the message says because it's just a series of squeaks, but I think what they're trying to get over is their appreciation for Darren's, very accurate and in-depth translation of their lore and their history. And I think they're trying to say thank you. And so they've sent us a song. They did write one part of the this message in common, so I was able to read it. And it's a dedication to you, Chris, for your rendition of Benny Hill.
Oh no.
Bring it on. Right. I'm flattered. It sounds like a really shit scratch DJ. But thanks.
Yeah, I'll pass you thanks on.
I like that was your first take, Kral, because all I can think of is the image of rats in lingerie being chased.
Through different doors.
Maybe that's just me. Who knows?
It did turn into a bit of a kind of farmyard fest at the end.
There was a cow.
Yeah, there was a cow and a dog and some cats. I don't know, maybe they just brought in some, additional talent. Yeah, exactly.
I'm worried that this was recorded in the Hell Pit, which is where Clan Moulder merges all the animals together.
Yeah, the sounds that you heard were actually all from one animal.
Ben. You animal.
Right, Crowley, what happened last month, mate?
What happened? What didn't happen last month? It was all about the Skaven, and I think the Skaven got a bit too big for their boots, didn't they? They tried to overthrow a couple of civilizations. First, they had a dig at the Empire. That didn't work. Then they decided to have a go at the Bretonnians.
That'll work.
That also didn't work. And then shit just kind of fell apart, didn't it? They had their civil war, and things got really out of hand, and they just kind of scattered. At the same time, whilst the Skaven were falling out with one another, Clan Pestilence was sabotaging votes, Clan Scruten tried to take control. A massive chaos army descended on the Empire. So the Skaven thought, well, hang on, guys, hang on. Let's put our ratty differences aside, regrouped, summoned the Grey Seers, had some mad ritual sacrificing slaves, which summoned the horned rat, who then began to eat his own kind, right? Just scooping up handfuls of Skaven.
His worshippers.
Yeah, really cannibalistic, some really weird sex fest going on. Yeah, and out of that, one thing led to another. A new council of 13 was formed, which ironically only consisted of 12, I think. Is that right, Darren? Who have ruled ever since.
It is, yes.
And they've kind of kept themselves to themselves, the Skaven, actively kept themselves undercover.
Didn't the horned rat leave them like a big pillar covered in his commandments?
Yes, it's referred to as the Pillar of the Commandments.
Well, there you go. The aptly named.
Nice. So yeah, I felt a bit sorry for the Skaven. They had a few goes, and so
Skaven don't need your sympathy.
They really do. They may not say it, but you can see it in their eyes. Like, pity us. So the first attack against the Empire they tried, Darren, was that pretty much after the Battle of Cripple Peak? And
yes, it was a few hundred years after, yeah.
So they kind of regrouped after the epic Battle of Cripple Peak, where they didn't do themselves any favors by poisoning the dwarves, and there was that battle on two fronts, that epic battle. Yeah, they unleashed the Black Plague, didn't they? Well, I've got... was it the Red Pox or the Black Plague that they unleashed on the Empire to weaken them initially?
It was the Black Plague, I think.
Some really awful disease which weakened them, and it killed like 30% of humans, or the Empire, didn't it? It really decimated them. But then, ironically, karma struck, and the virus backfired, mutated, and started attacking the Skaven.
Yeah.
True.
Yuck. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know why I'm saying yeah. No, it was terrible. It was an awful time in our history.
Oh, it's all coming out now. The PR representative, Skaven kind, shows his true
I've
colours.
forgotten the PR representative.
As soon as things start looking a bit bleak, he turns coat,
slander,
and goes, "Oh, I never liked the Skaven anyway."
Slander.
You spineless.
I've just
PR
recently
agent.
had a job offer from the Dark Elves, so thinking about jumping ship. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure. I might be going from the frying pan to the fire there, but you know.
Yeah, I was just about to say one should always turn down offers from Dark Elves.
Oh, okay.
Well, you'd fit in there because the leader of the Dark Elves, didn't he kind of bail? He did the kind of walking through the coal of bath of fire or the flaming flume or something like that.
I thought you were going to say I could relate to him because I was dating my mother.
What?
I thought that's what you were about to say, because he was dating his mother. He was a mother lover.
Well, I mean, if the cat fits, mate. I mean, if
well,
that's
no,
what
I
you're
thought that's
into.
what you were implying. I'm not dating my mother.
You're the one bringing it up, pal. Darren. Are you his brother or his uncle? Which one is it?
I'm his bunkle.
He's my fun uncle. My full uncle.
No, I was saying you've got something in common with the Dark Elves because the leader of the Dark Elves, he bailed on that, test of strength or will or character, didn't he? He was like, these coals are too hot. Yeah. So I'm bailing because I'm a flake and you're a flake.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, nothing to do with sleeping with mothers. Yeah, definitely the flake.
Yeah, and you slept with your own mother. That too.
Don't you speak about my mother like that.
Anyway, enough about you. Back to the Skaven. We also saw the crowning of Mandred Skaven Slayer, previously Mandred von Zelt, who was he like the mayor or something of Middenheim, the only bastion.
He was the Elector Count.
The Elector Count.
The Elector Count of Middenheim.
Okay, yeah. So, and Middenheim were only like one of the few bastions of the Empire that could actually hold back these waves of attack of the Skaven.
Correct.
And so, he manned up and chopped the fucking head of the Lord of Decay, didn't he? Gino Chop!
He did indeed.
Yeah, so that was the war over versus the Empire anyway. And yeah, like I say, they didn't learn. They decided a few hundred years later to regroup and attack the Bretonnians, and that fell on its arse after the Wood Elves came to the rescue, right?
Yeah, Wood Elves.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go and do PR for them. That's a better idea.
Oh, man, you're such a sellout. Commit.
All right, fine. I reject any claims that the Black Plague mutated of its own volition. It was a conspiracy by some people in the Empire. The Skavens are completely innocent in it. When we make a plague, we fucking make a plague. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't make one that mutates.
Ben,
that is slander.
Your integrity is in tatters. Within one intro, you flipped from hating the Skaven, trying to get in with the Dark Elves, considering getting with the Wood Elves, sleeping with your own mother, and now you're back with the Skaven.
Again, slander. Moving on.
Anyway, so that brings us full circle to the current mishmash of Skaven society, scattered all over the place, not really doing too much. Where do we go from here, Darren?
Well, first, let me say that is almost 100% accurate if you look at it through a fun, fair, wonky mirror. So that was a great roundup.
It was.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
So, episode 9, where are we? Where are you taking us? Where are we heading?
What's the crack?
So this episode, I thought we'd have a look at the Skaven clans that make up the Skaven Empire and just have a look at their hierarchies, some of the more interesting troop types and weapons. The current condition of the Skaven, as we left off last episode, are the kind of Batman-esque villains that are just operating in the shadows, killing off as many people who learn about them as possible, and raiding at the edges of the Empire and other realms of men. This is punctuated by significant battles every now and then, but these are usually written off as beastmen attacks, either by ignorant scholars or by nobles who have been paid off by the Skaven to run their misinformation campaigns.
Nice.
So I thought we'd have a quick look at their under-empire, which is their own kingdom, and then dive into the hierarchy and the clans. The Skaven under-empire, if you can imagine a spread-out world map, looks very much like a map of the London Underground. It connects under major population centres of other races, but also they have their own cities, warrens, and population sites. So the most common elements of the Under-Empire are the massive highways and tunnels between these things. And these are very much a bastardized parody of the Dwarven Underway, which is this marvel of Dwarven architecture and excavation, where you have these very intricately carved, intricately decorated highways between the Dwarven holds. If you could imagine that, but they're very rough-hewn, carved out of rock, the occasional chunk of warpstone, littered with skeletons, usually of night goblins, who also dwell underground, and any remains of armies that have tried to come in to the Skaven Under-Empire to destroy them. So these things are, in some instances, half a mile wide and ostensibly hundreds of miles long. And that allows for a huge teeming mass of vermin to travel in either direction. Now, have any of you ever seen the videos of the mouse plagues they get in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that, but in a confined space.
Wow.
Shudder.
Now, these underway tunnels, or under-empire tunnels, they are incredibly humid because the amount of body heat and sweat and urine that's given off by these creatures as they move back and forth in, their multitudes builds up this kind of fetid, clawing atmosphere that's really the Skaven kind of live in 24/7.
God.
The Skaven like that. Did they have serious cases of agoraphobia amongst some of the Skaven? Like wide open spaces. Don't do it. No. Too vulnerable. Put me back in a hole.
I mean, yeah, you see that with a number of races that are subterranean, or to use a fancy word, troglodytic.
That's a fancy word.
Fancy.
And it's only really fear of being killed by their leaders is what drives Skaven kind of spiritually anyway. So they will only come out if there's a chance of survival against automatic death.
You mentioned the kind of skeletons of other races that have kind of come in to try and attack the Skaven. I was going to ask, are there any documented cases of raids into the Under-Empire? Have any races tried to kind of, go to the core and cut the head off the snake sort of thing?
The short answer is no. There have been localized incursions where dwarves or the orcs and goblins, they're the two races that most commonly engage the Skaven on kind of a daily basis. And we can cover those specific incursions in their kind of deep dives. But really with the Skaven, they don't, the value of a Skaven life is so little that they don't really care if 10,000 Skaven are wiped out. So they don't really factor those kinds of incursions beyond the normal day-to-day battles and civil kind of strife that they have anyway. It's only really if the Skaven capture or lose, a base of operation that it would be noted.
Right. In your opinion, if all of the races on the world of Warhammer were to enter the Under Empire and attempt to completely wipe out the Skaven, would it be possible?
No.
Why not?
The Under Empire is simply too big. It's too big and the Skaven are too numerous. There's just simply too many settlements. I mean, we're talking about a small settlement of Skaven is about 10,000, and there would be literally tens of thousands of those kinds of settlements dotted around the Under Empire, outside of the major kind of settlements, which you're talking about hundreds of thousands, up to 500,000 bodies at any given time, which themselves are underneath the major urban centers in the empire. I mean, effectively what they do is they take the name of a city and stick the word under in front of it. So you've got Under Altdorf, Under Middenheim, Under Nuln.
Under Scunthorpe.
No, just Scunthorpe.
Just Scunthorpe.
Just Scunthorpe. I mean, but you do have a lot of mid-sized settlements dotted around. So the level of coordination that would be required is not only beyond the diplomatic capacity of the Warhammer world as written, it would also be pointless because, a couple of hundred Skaven tucked away in some little hole somewhere could eventually rebuild the entire race.
Yeah, that's how because they really do breed like rapids, don't they? Well, rats.
They do indeed breed like rats.
How do they breed? Are there female Skaven?
Well,
when a man Skaven and a woman Skaven love each other very much, they do a special cuddle.
And create 10,000 children.
There's never been any illustrations or discussion about female Skaven. So I imagine, these huge kind of humid caverns where there's all these female constantly pregnant Skaven giving birth left, right, and center. Yeah.
Oh God.
Wow.
But that's just speculation. There's nothing written or understood about it.
Nothing written at all.
All that happens is you got a fucking bucket load of rats from somewhere. Doesn't really matter where they come from, but there's loads of them.
So some of the major strongholds within the Under Empire, you've got Under Altdorf, which is the capital of the empire, which is so large that some of the leaders who form within the kind of Under Altdorf Council are seen as semi-rivals to the Council of 13 and have heretically come to name Under Altdorf as New Skavenblight.
Wow. Just a bit of like grudginess, a bit of envy, a bit of bitterness. Is that it?
It's like Edinburgh and Glasgow.
Keeping up with the Joneses, looking over the neighbour's yard, thinking, his grass is a bit greener. Their Skavenblight's a bit scavenier. It's a word.
Scavenier.
Yeah, but they were recently brought to task by the world-famous Grey Seer Thankwall, with about 1 in 5 of the population killed in a series of floods orchestrated by the treacherous Grey Seer. So it's halted down the growth of the Under Altdorf population. But basically, don't fuck with the Council of 13.
No, one never should fuck with the Council of 13, really. So there's a lot of bickering and pettiness between the Skaven clans generally. Maybe nothing kind of really society destroying, but a lot of just bickering. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I said, they're driven by fear. That's their fundamental motivation. So they're a relatively short-lived race unless they gain power, which brings Warpstone. And Warpstone really starts to extend the life of a Skaven. So most of the named Skaven are 100 to 200 years old, and some are mutated by the evil power that comes from Warpstone. But also, if you get to a position where you're able to get on the Council of 13, then you're going from centuries to a millennia, because when you touch the Pillar of the Commandments and survive, that imbues you with a dark power, which comes directly from the Horned Rat, and that allows you then to take a longer view and plan ahead for the domination of the Skaven.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Or that thing could kill you.
Yeah, 99.99% of the time you dissolve in liquid green fire.
Wow. That's some way to go.
But you might win the jackpot. I like those odds.
I'll dig it.
It may surprise you that 1 in 13 Skaven families have only 67 or less offspring in their litter every birthing cycle. If you're one of these families and are looking for the support and advice to help increase your litter size, help is at hand. The Skaven Blight Department of Public Health provide free, friendly, and confidential family planning clinics. Our experienced advisors, educated through Clan Mulder's esteemed College of Procreation and Hybridization, as well as our in-house perpetually pregnant breeders, will help you achieve the litter size you desire and ensure the exponential growth of Skaven kind. Because, as we all know, there's safety in numbers. Absolutely huge numbers. Come by your local Skaven Blight Family Planning Clinic and see how we can help you.
So there are a number of under-cities, as it were. We've just briefly mentioned Under Altdorf. There's Under Middenheim, where, if you remember, Middenheim is this city built on top of a kind of rocky promontory, which cannot be accessed by land unless it's over this kind of amazing bridge. So the Skaven attack from below, as is their wont. But there's constant patrols. You're looking at a kind of a partnership between Imperial and Dwarven races that are guarding the tunnels, and every now and then a small party of Skaven get into the city itself, but they're usually very quickly wiped out. But Middenheim is under like a constant siege, but because it gets its water source from above, they can't poison them like they did that dwarf hold.
Do you mean from rainwater? Like that's where they're...
and ice. They have a constantly clean water source, which is really one of their biggest benefits.
And is Middenheim the one where the humans and the dwarves, like the dwarves, do a lot of the manufacturing and stuff there?
No, that's the next one. That's Nuln. That's Under Nuln.
Right.
If you're referring to like forges and making cannons and what have you. Yeah. So that's Under Nuln. So in the recent past, the warlord of Clan Scab tried to take over the city, so laid siege to the city from the land and from the Under Empire, and it was going quite well until, once again, Grey Seer Thankwall, who is a representative of the council, through, I'm not going to say cunning skill, it's usually happenstance and complete incompetence on his part. Basically, the magazines of gunpowder in the city were detonated. A third of the city collapsed, and almost all of Clan Scab was destroyed.
So this was in Middenheim?
No, in Nuln.
This was in Nuln. Excuse me. Okay, yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So there, we dot around. There's more cities of note. There's a settlement which is not underneath the city, but it's a settlement. It's the most northerly settlement. Is called the Hell Pit, and that's the base of Clan Mulder.
Sounds lovely.
And I remember, Chris, I think it was the second or third episode, you said, why aren't the Skaven, up in the north collecting as much warpstone if it's coming out of the Chaos Gates? Well, this is where they do that from. It's the kind of most northerly base of the Under Empire.
I see.
So we'll talk about Clan Moulder in more detail later on. But yeah, this is the kind of flesh pits. This is where the monsters are created.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty grim place. So dotted around the old world and the wider world, you have loads of these little cities. You've got the Black Chasm in Bretonnia. You've got Under Mouzlon, which is, I think we've mentioned it before, the Bretonian city of Mouzlon is under a vampiric curse. So the Skaven are constantly fighting against huge numbers of ghouls, zombies, and skeletons. So you can imagine it echoes the warfare of the Battle for Cripple Peak. But certainly not a place you would want to find yourself.
Like the most of the world of Warhammer. I don't think there's been one place apart from the pompous Ulthuan city that you kind of want to go. And even there, the dicks.
It's the moot, mate. That's where you want to go, isn't it?
Oh, the moot. Yeah, sorry. The moot is that's my jam.
Apparently, you end up smelling of fish or something after 3 days. But I fine. Yeah, I'll take fishy smell over deathy death, killy kill any day.
Pretty much.
Well, that's a T-shirt if ever I heard one. Of course, then there are going to be a lot of huge bases near their two most notorious foes, one being the orcs and goblins, the other being the dwarves. So with the orcs and goblins, you're looking at huge, almost fortresses and barracks of charmingly named places such as Festerspike, Foul Peak, and the inviting Putrid Swamp.
Who names these places? And that question's directed at Ben, the PR representative of the Skaven.
We have a department that deals with it. You know, it's.
Do you have a Jeff?
We have, like
Skaven Jeff.
Yeah, Skaven Jeff Festerspike. He was actually the inventor of the name Festerspike.
Jeff Festerspike.
But we deal with that in house.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. Do better.
Do better. Well, actually, I think we're doing great because the idea is that we want to name it to keep people away. And let me ask you, Chris, would you go on a holiday to Festerspike or Fart Knocker or whatever the other ones were?
Fart Knocker. It's like a parody of Hurt Locker.
Isn't Fart Knocker that Slaneshi-based resort?
Yeah.
That's a niche fetish, even for Slanesh.
Isn't it?
That's like borderline. Oof, yeah. Scat sex. Anyway, no, but I'll probably go on a day trip to Pestilent wherever Ville. Yeah, just to experience it, just to buy the T-shirt. You know,
you might not survive a trip to Pestilenceville, though.
All right. Okay.
Or you might grow a third arm or develop fur.
But it was worth it for those fish tacos. I hear they are amazing. The Putrid Palace.
You need to go to the moot for fish tacos, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, the landlocked moot. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't buy fish from there, would you?
I mean, my biggest concern about going to festival would be developing a second fart knocker. And then we move to perhaps their greatest enemy, or the ones that certainly their most storied enemy, which is the Dwarven Empire. So there's a number of ongoing sieges, fallen Dwarven holds. You're looking at the City of Pillars, which is Carrag 8 Peaks, which was taken over by Clan Moors. And that really is a huge source of wealth for the Skaven, not just only in terms of warpstone, but also in raw materials to make armor, weapons, to provide materials to Clan Scryer to build their war machines, that kind of thing. Then there's the Black Crag, which is it's a small enough garrison, but they use it to spy on the greenskins. So there's a few agents of Clan Eshin who are the assassins and spies of the Skaven Empire there. You then have Carrick Ungor, again another small garrison, but they have recently found deposits of warpstone, so that's going to start swelling in size and will be an influence on the local tribes of greenskins and nearby dwarven holes. And then Carrick Varn, which was the first ever hold to be conquered by the Skaven. So this was one of these ones where they flooded the lower levels with night goblins, again calling back to that tale of them taking over that dwarf hold. The Skaven like to use other races as the kind of anvil to their hammer when taking over difficult opponents.
That's a great tactic. That's what we do in Dungeons and Dragons. We've got this tactic of always trying to recruit, befriend, even if they're initially enemies. If we can woo them, we'll get them to join our posse, and then we'll just send them into battle first. Great meat shields. It's a really good tactic as well.
Cunning.
So to sum up the Under Empire, it's the ratty version of the London Underground writ large, which ultimately means that a citizen of the Old World is never more than a mile away from a band of Skaven, which is quite a terrifying thought, really.
Wow, yeah.
You mentioned it's the dwarves which engage the most with the Skaven earlier. Is that right, or is that just in a certain area? But my real question was, is that just because they're both underground architects and they just clash a lot inherently because of that?
Yes, it's the nearness. In terms of combat, it's like that really rubbish TV show. Location, location, location.
With Phil and Kirsty.
Yeah. Oh, please. We have to do a sketch-up of Skaven Kirsty.
Oh, God. Horrific. What nightmares are made of.
Questions on the Under Empire?
I have one question. I think you said Carrick 8 Peaks was obviously now a Skaven settlement. Was that the one that the Skaven poisoned the water supply?
No, you moron. That was Carrick 7 Peaks.
See what you did there.
Yes, that was Carrick 8 Peaks, the very first kind of documented major battle with the dwarves. And we can all see that the Skaven character and values were perfectly on display there for that one.
Yes. Again, not something we're proud of, and extensive PR campaign to cover that up. My question is, you said that it was they get a lot of resources from this.
Yes.
One thing you meant, like for making armor and weapons and stuff. One thing I don't think we've mentioned is the I know we're going to get onto weapons, but like the manufacture of them. Do they have blacksmiths and forges in the Under Empire? Do they just reconstitute weapons that they get off of their enemies' buddies?
No, they craft their own shit, don't they? Clan Scryen are pretty tinkery. Is that right, Darren?
Who are you and what have you done with Krell?
Oh, sorry. Let me be more Krell. Bo?
There we go.
Skavan?
No.
So a lot of the more esoteric and complicated weapons and machines are produced by Clan Scryen. So anything involving the kind of projection of warpstone or warpstone powder, anything that has like more than 3 or 4 moving parts is built by Clan Scryen. Each warlord clan, these are the kind of teeming verminous general clans, so really nothing of note other than tons of Skaven. They do have their own methods for producing armor and for producing weapons, very much like that scene in Lord of the Rings. If you can remember the Uruk-hai,
yes, I do remember
having all their stuff cast rather than forged. So it's very much that. Not great quality weapons, but enough to stick in an unarmored opponent from the side or the back, really, which is what Skaven want to do.
Nice. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I have a couple of queries about the Under Empire. You got these massive sprawling highways and stuff. Well, a couple of things. One, they're like hundreds of miles. I mean, they're epically long.
Yes.
They don't have any other way to get around apart from on their feet, hands, and paws, right? They don't. It's not like a hyperloop system. They haven't got like vehicles they can just pop in.
Like a Skaven subway system, like a bus network.
Yeah, Skaven Hyperloop by Skaven Elon Musk.
He's like Skaven bikes, like Boris bikes, but
well, you need more than Boris bikes because they're massive, aren't they? Massive long highways, hundreds of miles long. I just wondered how they get around apart from just mooching around. It's long,
I mean, the honest answer is I don't recall ever reading anything about like a mass transit system. However, there are a couple of illustrations. One, I think, shows a type of monorail in one of their, I think it's the kind of cross-section of the Under Empire under Middenheim, or under one of the other Empire cities. I'll dig it out and I'll put it in the show notes, but it shows the kind of depth and complexity under there. I mean, there's things they've built or seconded viaducts, dwarven viaducts. There's lots of scaffolding. I mean, most of these...
Isn't the start sequence of Vermintide, don't you get on a monorail in that? Because as you pass the Grey Seer, who's talking with that Chaos Lord, and they're talking about the warp portal that they've made, you're on like a monorail, aren't you? You fly past them.
Yeah, but that's like a prisoner transfer system. That's just like for one. What we're talking about is there one for like tens or hundreds of Skaven at a time.
I see. Okay, right.
For the Skaven commuters, you know?
Yeah, it's the difference, I suppose, between a ski lift and a train.
Okay, second question. I imagine, I'm just assuming here, that a lot of these warrens and things, that some of them are more permanent than others. So some of them might disappear as quick as they all cave in and just destroy, collapse on themselves or whatever as quickly as they're made. Kind of like the shifting sands. Do you know what I mean? Like you couldn't map it out permanently. There may be some more permanent routes or longer term routes than others, but is the underground warren, is it always ever changing as well?
Barring disasters, either natural or intentional, you have a fixed core and a constantly undulating edge. So once you get into the kind of smaller areas or less important settlements, like there's not as much scaffolding, there's not as much bracing of the tunnel. If you can imagine, almost all under Empire settlements look like, and I'm certainly not casting aspersions here, look like the Brazilian favelas, you know, these huge shanty towns.
Oh, yeah.
If you can imagine them writ large. I mean, a lot of these places have kind of communal sleeping areas based on your clan affiliation, and effectively it's just a gently sloping cone of hay, in, you know, either fresh or matted. You're looking at clothes.
I bet that's well cheap on booking.com. Like you could easily get
private room with shared bathroom.
With 1 million other residents
in an up and coming highly social area.
The thing is that it would be one bedroom that is also a shared bathroom.
Yeah.
Open plan living, we call it. Open plan living.
Yeah. So you're looking at, you know, hundreds of Skaven all bedding down in the same room at the same time, you know, with the broken down by hierarchy, where you've got the leader at the top who's able to sleep in, and I quote, fresh air. And then, you know, as your status diminishes, it's lower down the pile of Skaven you are. So you can imagine, you know, a load of heavily armored rats just sleeping on top of each other.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is a well-buttered sandwich.
But there's a lot of spooning goes on there. Can you spoon as a rat? Yeah, I suppose you probably could spoon as a rat man.
We encourage all listeners to send in sketches. Right, so if that's that, we'll pull back from the Under Empire and focus ourselves once again on Skaven Blight, and we'll have a look at the top rats, the Council of 13. So as mentioned in previous episodes, the Council of 13 are 12 Skaven, the 13th place being reserved ceremonially for the Horned Rat himself. These are known as the Lords of Decay. These are the guiding council of all of Skavendom. And they, as Chris alluded to in the intro, they had to pass a test 200 years ago where they had to touch the Black Warpstone Pillar of the Commandments. And these, I'm going to use the word guys, these guys were the only Skaven to survive. And so they were set up as the Lords of Decay, and they have not changed in 200 years. They certainly, some Skaven warlord every now and then passes the test of the pillar, but then is unable to kill one of the Lords of Decay so that they could take their place.
God, it's quite a rigorous application process, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not a Boots questionnaire.
Yeah, Christ.
So this council offers a level of stability to the kind of long-term plans for the Skaven race. And so it's made up of, as I said, 12 figures, all of whom are protected by these albino storm vermin bodyguards. I think we mentioned it right at the start that you're born into your status in the Skaven Empire. So brown Skaven are just ordinary clan rats. They're just the kind of run-of-the-mill Skaven. Black-furred Skaven are then the storm vermins. These are the real kind of shock troops of the Skaven Empire. And albino Skaven are then turned into the bodyguards of the Council of 13. And these are really the kind of fanatical troops. So the council is made up of some rather characterful Skaven. We mentioned Seer Lord Christislick, who has not only the honour of being the leader of all Grey Seers, but has his own breakfast cereal.
That's right. I recall last time it took Ben a long time to come to terms to understand that name.
Oh, yeah.
Krusty what? Sorry, is that 2 J's or...
I still have no idea what you're fucking talking about, but that's fine. It's fine. Just let it go, Ben.
It does sound very unskaven, Krusty Flicks. It sounds quite delightful.
Well, it certainly does if you mispronounce it, Chris. It's Christislick.
Krusty Flick.
Dude, that's what he said, Krusty Flakes.
Oh God, here we go again.
Oh,
I think
Can we just draw a line under
I heard
this
it.
and never say that guy's name ever again?
Krusty Flakes.
right. So the leader of the Grey Seers is not only the leader of all Grey Seers, he's also the secret ruler of a warlord clan, Clan Scruten, which is relatively easy to pronounce.
Scrutins?
Scruten with an N.
Scrutin. It's kind of a cross between scrutinizing scrotum.
One should always scrutinize your scrotum, especially at this age.
It's very important. Looking for a lump in a bag of lumps. It's no small task.
You shouldn't laugh about that shit. Us eunuchs would be very, very offended. So this guy, he is also the secret leader. He's one of the Lords of Decay, and he's the leader of a secret clan, Scruten.
No, Scruten is a publicly traded clan, and he's the secret ruler of it, rather than it being a secret
So everyone knows
clan.
about Scruten, even though that was the first time I've heard about this clan. But this guy is the leader of it, but no one knows he's the leader of it. He's the secret leader of it.
Yeah.
So who's the public-facing leader? Who do people think the leader of Scruten
Like
is?
the dummy leader.
Yeah, who's the canary? Who's the fall guy?
If memory serves, it's someone by the name of...
If memory serves. We're looking at you as the Oracle, Darren.
Malcolm Scrotum. I have no fucking idea.
Okay. I'm assuming that we're going to get to why he is the secret leader. There's an ulterior motive here.
No, it's really just to highlight his influence. A lot of the Lords of Decay are, they're a backstabbing bunch of rat-based cunts. Mm-hmm. So they will absolutely, use every means necessary to be able to exert their power and influence. So if you're not only the head of the kind of priesthood of the Horned Rat, which the Grey Seers are, but you also have a warlord clan, this, tens of thousands of armored Skaven ready to do your beckoning at any time, you can pretty much guarantee that anything you want to get done will get done.
So he keeps that secret now. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. But seeing as the Skaven are inherently backstabbing, power-hungry, selfish, self-centered species, Do the
Yes.
do the members of the Scruten clan know that this guy is the leader boss as well as the leader of all Skaven, and therefore do they betray him with that knowledge?
Did you just call them the Scrotum clan?
No, I call them the Scruten clan. What's the name again? I can't remember. What the
Scrotum.
name is
I
now.
think it's Scrotum. Just call
They'll
them
be known as the
Scrotum, it's
Scroats
fine.
from now on. The Scroats.
Yeah, the Scroats. The clan Scroats.
Do the tens of thousands of the members of the Scroats, did they manage to keep it secret on the most part then? Do they even know he's the leader of their clan?
I think the vast majority of them don't know that he's their leader, because why would he make that available?
Then who do they listen to?
So it's going to be their own warlord, who is controlled then by Christuslik. So if you can remember, they're a fear-based race. That's what motivates them. So if you've got the most powerful sorcerer in the Skaven realm, who is also the high priest of your god, you're probably going to listen to him.
Yeah, then he doesn't really need to keep it secret. Because, I mean, like, he's twice as fearful. But I'm not a Skaven, I don't understand, so fair enough.
Well,
but
I think it comes down to the Grey Seers having to maintain a level of impartiality, because they're viewed as the priests of not only the Horned Rat, but they're also messengers and kind of special agents of the Council of 13. So if you have a council member who is also meant to be somewhat impartial in terms of his attitude towards the kind of Skaven clans,
sure.
who also has a clan under his direct control, then that's going to cause problems.
Conflict, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
All right.
Yeah, so I think that's a good example of how convoluted Skaven politics can get, and how the Council of 13 members are constantly vying for control and power in the wider Skaven Empire.
Got it. All right. Okay. Sorry, yeah, and I've never heard of the Scruten clan. Have you mentioned them before?
Scruten? No, I mean, I've only mentioned... I've only mentioned...
Darren talks about his scrotum all the time, Chris. You're obviously just not listening. Like.
I know. Sorry.
I mean, as it gets lower, it's a constant source of conversation. It's why I can't wear kilts anymore.
He always just lets it peek out just to break the ice.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing? Oh, that's just my scrotum.
Mr. Barber, what a unique sporran you have.
Mr. Barber, you seem to have a bit of brain showing.
Are you cold, Darren? A bit cold? Anyway.
So moving on from Darren's scrotum.
So the council is made up of lots of other interesting characters. I'll just give you a handful here. You've got Paskrit the Vast, who is this morbidly obese general of all Skaven warlord armies. He, ostensibly, he's the one that advises which clan gets sent on which mission of the warlord clans. So he doesn't affect the kind of four great clans that we'll touch on soon. You've got, which I think was, the next one is a subject we've not touched on really in our 8 previous episodes. We've got Vrisk the Iron Scratch, who is the fleet master of the Skaven world. So he's in charge of all of the Skaven clan fleets, and he also has his own warlord clan, which is Clan Scurvy. Amusingly enough,
nice.
a disease, a maritime disease.
That's very cool.
But it does touch on Skaven do have their own fleets of ships.
Yeah, where the fuck are they? Are they can't be kept in the Under Empire.
Well, very much like the dwarven port of Barak Var, it's an inlet that comes in under a mountain. That's Barak Var. The Skaven have numerous kind of out-of-the-way little inlets and bays that they control, but you'll find a lot of it, obviously, on the coastal areas or near wide river mouths that they control themselves. So anywhere there's a swamp or a marsh, that's a viable launching point for a Skaven fleet.
Wow.
Historically, there was a game out in the mid-90s called Man o' War, which was a miniature naval battle game, and you did have a Skaven fleet. There were 3 kind of named ships. You had the Doombringer, which was this...
Which brought doom.
Yeah, which brought doom, which was this enormous kind of paddle steamer, warp-powered paddle steamer that had this enormous bell on it, like the bell at the top of the cathedral, and like at the kind of screaming bells that they use in combat. So when this bell would start tolling, there would be magical effects that would be impacting it, and it would rupture, very much like sonic weaponry, would rupture the hulls of enemy ships. You had the warp raiders, which were these very fast, smaller paddle ships that had a huge, like the size of a terrace of houses, warp fire thrower on the front of it, which would just, set fire to any ship or coastal point that it was aimed at. And then you had Clan Pestilens. If you remember, they migrated from Lustria to the Southlands. But they also had their own fleets, and they used this thing called a death burner, which, again, it looks like a small paddle steamer with a crane at the front. And that hanging from that crane is an enormous plague sensor, which is just this ball in which warp fire powder is burned, and it makes everyone dreadfully sick.
Dhar, did you have this when we were younger?
Yes.
Because I've just Googled it, and I recognize all, just as you were describing the first one, the paddle steamer, I was like, I remember that. I remember those miniatures. They are so cool, man.
Yeah, we played a couple of games of it.
Yeah, I think so. Very cool.
Anyway, so that's a key insight into a lesser kind of explored aspect of the Warhammer world, which is its naval battles, its naval forces. Nice. And we'll touch on, if you guys would like, we'll touch on that in all the other races as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool.
Safe.
We then get into the Warlord clans, and these are just innumerable, but for the Lords of Decay anyway, you've got some, again, great characters. You've got Grisneck Mancarver, guess what he does? And he's in charge of Clan Scab. And then this guy has the best name, Archpontifex Stitch, who is in charge of Clan Morbidus.
Clan Morbidus?
Clan Morbidus.
Oh, that's cool.
What's his name?
It's Archpontifex Sitch.
Archpontifex Stitch.
No, Sitch. S-I-T-C-H. Sitch.
That's what I said, Sitch.
Yeah, like witch, but with a S.
Archpontifex. That seems a bit of a pompous name for a Skaven, rather than Ratty Claw.
Jibba Jabba.
I like the idea that you think that Skaven aren't pompous.
They aren't pompous. They're a bunch of rats. They're just kind of fecal-eating, breeding rats, right?
You're very kind of scat-focused this episode. What's going on, Chris? You all right, mate?
I had a weird upbringing. That's all I'll say.
He's a scat man. Unexpected lumps are no joke. At least not yours, anyway. Other people's lumps are hilarious, but yours are no laughing matter. We all have lumps. Some lumps are fine the way they are. Don't worry about it, it's just a lump. Some lumps are great. Hey, yo, nice lumps. But lumps where you least expect them. Oh, shit. Nobody likes those lumps. Here at Flumpy Lumps Limited, we're on a mission to eradicate unwanted lumps, bumps, and bulges. We've teamed up with lump expert Clan Scruten to create the latest in lump locating technology. Introducing the Scruten Scrotum Scrutinizer. Have you ever scrutinized your scrotum? Well, now you don't have to. With the Scruten Scrotum Scrutinizer, searching for lumps in your bag of lumps just got a whole bunch easier. Here's the not-so-secret leader of Clan Scruten, Seer Lord Christislick, to tell us how it works. Great. Just great. Thanks, Krusty Flakes. So if you're concerned about a clump of plump lumps in your lump bag, fear not. We have the solution. The Scruten Scrotum Scrutinizer. Scrutinize that scrotum. Flumpy Lumps Limited is a trading name of Scryotech. All rights reserved.
Right, so that's really the Council of 13 or the Lords of Decay. We mentioned the Grey Seers there with Seer Lord Christoslix, and he rules the Grey Seers, who are the messengers and ambassadors and special agents of the Lords of Decay. They're the ones that are sent on special missions. They're the ones who are responsible for forces, either in a kind of generalship role or an advisory role. And they also represent the Horned Rat himself wherever they are. And so a lot of the clans live in fear of these Skaven because the Grey Seers can simply declare a clan heretical, and the rest of Skaven society then has to come down and kill them.
Wow.
So really, very much the kind of ratty inquisitor.
Do they sometimes just out of spite just go, Clan Pestilence, for example, you're done? Everyone kill Clan Pestilence just because, I don't know, they rubbed them up the wrong way? Or are they actually do they refrain from just doing that kind of shallow, fickle, petty stuff because they're the council? They're bigger than that.
I think they want to do that. I think they want to throw their weight around, but Grey Seer Lord rules them with an iron fist. So they're significantly more politically savvy than the leaders of any one given clan, because they have to enact not just the will of the Horned Rat and not just the will of the council, but also the will of their ruler, Christoslix, because he's kind of trying to hold Skaven society together with a view to becoming its ultimate leader.
I see.
And so he can't have any of his priesthood just, destroying clans because he might have an idea of what he wants to do with those clans in the near future.
And could you imagine if they found out that their supreme leader was the secret leader of Scruten? I mean, that would just be bombshell, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure. I think a fair few of them realize what's happening, but they're clever enough to keep their mouth shut out of fear of being just simply sacrificed.
Okay.
I mean, they're a semi-religious order, so there's a constant stream of slaves being sacrificed at Skaven Blight, or indeed wherever the Grey Seers find themselves. So yeah, I think the most religious focused of the organizations within Skaven society. Okay. An interesting thing is that you can't recruit, you can't join the Grey Seers, you have to be born into it. And so it's Skaven who are born with either grey or white fur, and I'm saying white fur, not albinos. Albinos are the bodyguards for the Lords of Decay. Grey or white fur, and you have to have two little horns starting to come out of your skull. So really, these are the horned Skaven. So any Skaven with horns, with natural horns coming out of their head rather than as decoration on a helmet, they are undoubtedly Grey Seers.
Okay,
and they're trained from birth to be sorcerers, to be priests, and to be, as I said, more intelligent and aware than the day-to-day Skaven.
Yeah. So is there like a school, like a magic school there then? How are these Grey Seers trained?
Well, they're given all their sorceress training and their kind of education in Skaven society and how to command at the kind of main cathedral at the heart of Skaven Blight. Right. If you recall, that's the huge tower that was built in that fabled kind of origin story of the Skaven society itself, or the Skaven race itself.
Yeah. Nice.
So a lot of the great stories, novels, and kind of exploits of the Skaven, certainly through Warhammer novels and their own Warhammer army books, are seen through the eyes of Grey Seers, specifically the Grey Seer Thankwall, who is this legendary character within Skaven society, especially within the Grey Seers. He's pretty much seen as a lucky fool who is alternately blessed and cursed by the Horned Rat. So anything he touches tends to turn to shit, but in a good way. He tends to
cue Benny Hill.
What?
He tends to come out on top through just the machinations of the Lords of Decay. So even his failures are spun in a positive light. I'm specifically referencing the Siege of Nuln, where a third of Nuln was destroyed because of his own incompetence as a general, which led to the almost complete destruction of the Warlord clan he was guiding. But, when he was hauled in front of the Lords of Decay to explain himself, it was revealed that the clan in question had begun to rebel against the Council of 13. So their destruction was seen as a great victory, while also really slowing down the production of war machines in the Empire's greatest manufacturing city. So he was held up as a hero, and as a reward, his faithful rat ogre called Bone Ripper was brought back to life. So there's a great miniature of Thankwall next to this kind of rat ogre-sized amalgamation of, decaying muscle, bone, and wood and technology, who's got this kind of zombie Frankenstein monster-esque identity.
That's well cool.
In the Age of Sigmar, which is the game that happens after Warhammer, Thankwall is there as well, with a relatively new backstory, but his rat ogre, Bone Ripper, is this enormous four-armed monstrosity whose arms can be either tipped with warp fire throwers or warp sensors. It's an absolute beast in combat and is a great model to look at. Yeah.
That's cool.
So we close out this episode with a look at the vast majority of Skaven society, which is the Warlord clans. These are the run-of-the-mill Skaven that all the patrols encounter, that form up the bulk of armies of any Skaven invasion or incursion. Again, as we mentioned earlier, it's really down to your birth where your status is in the Skaven Empire, and especially true in Warlord clans. So the brown furred Skaven are the clan rats. These are the foot troops. These are the basic troops of the Skaven Empire, usually seen armed. They've got some form of armor on them. They've got their circular or triangular shields, and they're armed with either an incredibly rusty knife or sword, or an equally rusty spear from which to attack from a bit more of a distance. These are also this is the bulk of the troops that we encounter when we're playing Vermintide.
Right,
The bulk of them are clan rats.
Did you see many of the albino rats in Vermintide? I remember seeing the storm. The storm vermin, but
the storm vermin we encounter. But no, I mean, if you were to encounter an albino Skaven, it means that not far away there's a Lord of Decay, and you should run for everything you can.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Roger that.
Got it.
Now, given the nature of Skaven warfare, it's constant civil war and constant kind of machinations of not only the leaders of these warlord clans, but also of the Council of 13. A lot of these Skaven are taken as slaves. A lot of clan rats, when captured, are relegated to the position of Skaven slaves, which, this is a huge demotion in status. They're effectively no better than any other race in the eyes of the Skaven. They capture a lot of humans and a lot of dwarves and elves and orcs and use them as slaves in their mines or in their fields.
So would you have then in those mines and fields and stuff, would you have like human and dwarf slaves working alongside Skaven slaves?
Absolutely. Until a Grey Seer came along and then ordered all the humans to be sacrificed, or all the dwarves to be sacrificed to the glory of the Horned Rat. Yeah, you'd see. Yeah, slave society in the Under Empire is quite cosmopolitan.
Like a Benetton advert.
Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody called Vajovia.
So an interesting characteristic of Skaven slaves is when a clan rat is captured and it becomes a slave, their fur starts to fall out. And you get these kind of mangy, patchy-looking Skaven. Again, a multitude of which we've faced in Vermintide. They're the kind of, flesh-coloured ones that come at you
like
at the
mole
start.
rats that look like scrotums.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, yeah.
Absolutely. Clan Scruten scrotums, yeah.
Scrutums. Look at the scrotums on those Scrutens.
As Ben alluded to there, the storm vermin really are the shock troops of Skaven Warlord clans. These are the black-furred, more muscular, bulky troops who have better armor, better weaponry, and are more fanatical in their attack. You know, these troops probably have a very limited access to a bit of warpstone every now and then to help boost their strength and boost their life expectancy. And really, they're usually armed with these massive halberds.
God, you can just imagine, like, before they go into, like, battle, you know, there's just, like, I don't know, the Grey Seer comes down and just, like, racks up a shitload of lines of powdered warpstone, and all the Stormmasts fucking boosh, like, hit a big old line of it, get out there and kill some humans. Wow. What a mad party that'd be.
I tell you,
what a pep talk. Get this in your face.
I mean,
okay.
Stick this up your beak.
I'll be honest with you, I suspect it's exactly like that. Especially if they're going after crucial targets, they'll be given a lot more resources by the council and by the great clans to be able to get in there. So, seeing a load of shock troops off their tits on warp dust, that would put the shits up you.
Just give them a warpstone nose bag.
Warpstone nose bag.
I'd like to see a one-on-one of a Skaven Stormfiend jacked up on powdered warpstone versus which of the orc clans that like ass spiders?
Oh, the Savage Orcs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
Savage Orc. One Savage Orc versus a Stormfiend, you know, both jacked up on their poison of choice. Who's going to win? Put your money down.
Yeah, and the commentary coming from, what was the MTV, the boxing match?
Oh, Death Match.
Is it Death Match, the animated
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. I'd love to see that. Or commentary from the two guys off a dodgeball. He's not going to be able to see well with that on camera. Pepper needs new shorts.
Or the Aussie Man reviews.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
We've looked at the bulk of a warlord clan there with the clan rats, the extremely strong storm vermin, and then the kind of hordes of Skaven slaves, either used in the first wave of a given attack on an enemy or used to gather resources. Really, then, it's the leadership of these warlord clans. That's the last part of this episode. These are either Skaven who've been identified as being, having a destiny or being of benefit to the Skaven Empire by Grey Seers or the Lord of Decay. And so they're given resources, both magical and chemical, to increase their stature and power. Very much, I think, like the orcs. A huge number of successes in combat builds not only a fearsome reputation, which is paramount in Skaven society, but also allows you access to all these other resources, which builds up your physicality. So a lot of these warlords are quite imposing figures. They'll tower above an ordinary clan rat, and they'll have the best of armor, the best of weapons, magical items are kind of laid at their feet, either by the Grey Seers or taking them from enemies. So you've got a lot of Skaven warlords who use magical items forged by other races against the races that forge them. If you're looking at some being like Queek Headtaker, absolutely great name, he has this kind of red warpstone forged armor. And then he has two weapons. He has a sword, which is a powerful kind of warpstone sword, but he's also got this dwarven pick, which he uses to kind of burst through heavily armored targets, specifically dwarves. He also has this enormous rack of trophies on his armor. All right, get it out.
Nice
I paused with rack. Get out your system. So that's really the warlord clans. They're the Skaven that are most commonly encountered by other races. They're the forces that are thrown by the leadership of Skaven society at enemies most commonly. And they're also augmented by the four great clans, Clan Moulder, Clan Eshin, Clan Pestilence, and Clan Scryer. We'll look at those clans, the great clans, in our final Skaven episode next time.
Sweet. Oh, man.
We've been Skaven laden these past 2 or 3 episodes. I mean, there's still more to come.
Yeah.
I mean, as an orc fan, I feel a little bit shortchanged that, I mean, there's loads of orc clans that we could go on, but I guess the Skaven have got a rich heritage that's worth exploring, right?
Absolutely.
We'll get around to the orcs, Chris. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
I think we're done with the orcs, though. That right?
What do you mean we're done with the orcs?
I mean, we covered the orcs before, didn't we? But it was just kind of, there's a few clans of orcs, we've got the savage orcs, we've got the iron jaws, but let's talk about the Skaven.
Chris, you agreed to this, motherfucker, all right? We literally just touched on the orc clan names. That's it, We didn't... Darren, am I right in saying there's a hell of a lot more detail under the tip of that iceberg?
Oh, yeah. There's a good 5 or 6 episodes we could be had on orcs and goblins by themselves.
There you go, Chris. There you go, mate.
Right, okay.
But now I know it's important. We're going to do them last.
Yeah.
Move. Dick move. Are you saying that there is an end to this series? You've already planned that out?
Well, we're going to run out of material. We're going to run out of races.
And when we do, we may as well talk about the orc clans. Okay, fine. All right. I'll accept that.
All right.
So, Kral, if you had to pick, right, one of the cities that has an under city, which one would it be? What's the best possible scenario?
In a shit situation, okay.
In a shit situation.
Apart from Skaven Blight itself. Well, there was the Skaven Blight wannabe place, the kind of up and coming, wasn't there? What was that place called?
Under
Altdorf, yeah.
Yeah. I'll do that just to annoy the Skaven Blight citizens. I'll be like, you are Skaven Blight, but everyone knows you really want to be us. And it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just a bit smarmy.
True.
I'm all about smarm.
Totally. I mean, I would have gone for, I think it was Middenheim, because you had the kind of constant human and dwarf patrols under the city, so in terms of kind of defense.
But Middenheim was like one of the only bastions that the Skaven had no chance, or that could actually fight back.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm saying it's probably preferable from a human and dwarf perspective rather than a Skaven perspective. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Depending on which side of the fence you sit on, I'd rather be in Middenheim with Manfred von Skaven fucker.
Previously known as Skaven lover.
Skaven Barrett.
Skaven mother lover. And Darren, thanks for the episode. So that's it. That's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry, Darren.
No, I'm just going to roll with it.
But really, goodbye.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find out more about the topics we've discussed in this podcast, you can find all the reference articles in the show notes or on our website at layingdownthelore.com. You can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And just a reminder, we are now on Patreon, so if you're keen to join our Discord clan and shoot the shit with us, or you're excited to hear our bonus podcast series Chunks of Dhar, in which we grill Darren on topics covered in this podcast, or you really want us to start releasing content more frequently, head over to patreon.com/layingdownthelore and sign up today. We'll be back again next month displaying just how little Chris and I know. Until then, cheery bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Goodbye, my friends.